Hi, I'm Sean Duggan, and this is TheFIX, a podcast about Lightroom, Photoshop, post-processing, and all the cool, creative, and incredibly useful things we get to do with our images after the shoot. On this week's episode, we're going to do a Photo S.O.S. excursion and take a look at a few issues that have come up due to some questions I've received recently. One of those is going to be how to prevent the Apple Photos app from trying to hijack your images every time you insert a memory card into your computer, as well as a couple of Lightroom topics, including the importance of creating and maintaining a Lightroom Stunt catalog. Stay with us. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of TheFIX. I really do appreciate you taking the time to tune in from wherever in the world you're tuning in from. I know I mention that every week, but it is true. I do appreciate you taking the time to turn that internet dial over to this position and stop by for some post-processing tips, techniques, discussion, and interviews. So as I mentioned in the preamble for this week's episode, on this show, it's a little bit of a Photo S.O.S. format, and I'm going to be taking a look at some questions that I've received recently, either via email or when working with some of my own private clients that I have. Just some things that have come up that the solution is fairly simple for, and that I thought, everybody really needs to know about this. This is just a real good kind of bread and butter stuff to know about Lightroom. So that is what is on the agenda for today. Before I get into that, I want to remind you that we still have a book giveaway that is live and happening right now. And that book giveaway was mentioned last week on episode 052, the Boundary Warp for Panoramas episode. That book giveaway is generously sponsored by Rocky Nook. And we're going to be giving away The Art, Science, and Craft of Great Landscape Photography by Glenn Randall. And to enter that giveaway, all you have to do is go to the webpage for last week's episode. So just go to thisweekinphoto.com/thefix and find the page for episode 052, Boundary Warp for Panorama. It was just last week, so you'll see it right there on the page. And scroll down, and there are instructions in the middle of the page there for how to enter the book giveaway. Essentially, all you need to do is leave a comment on that page and tell us what sort of topics you are interested in seeing covered and featured on future episodes of TheFIX. It is that easy. So I think last week I had said that I would close the giveaway on February 17th. I think I'm going to give it an extra day till February 18th. So this episode here is being published early in the morning on February 16th, Tuesday. So that gives you another 3 full days, really, the 16th, 17th, and 18th, to head over to that page, leave a comment, tell us what sort of topics and features and whatnot you're interested in seeing covered on future episodes of TheFIX. And that will put your name into contention for being drawn for that book giveaway. And thanks again to Rocky Nook for generously sponsoring that book giveaway. They've got a lot of really interesting books about photography, so head over to their website, rockynook.com, and check out what they have to offer. Okay, it's time to dive into the Photo S.O.S. portion of the program. And first up is a pretty simple thing, but it can be very annoying when it happens to you over and over again, as it typically does. This is a Mac-centric issue, and it involves the Apple Photos program opening up every time you plug in a memory card to download your photos. Now, if you are using the Photos app to store your photos, then obviously that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But if you're using Lightroom or some other program to catalog your images and download them, then it can be very annoying because every time you put it in a card, the Photos app pops up and wants to take your photos, your images, into the Photos app. Most vexing, seriously vexing. Let's dive in and see how we can stop that behavior. So I have a memory card I'm going to put in my card reader here, and we'll see what happens. And lo and behold, the Photos app starts up and wants to ingest my photographs. Now, the logical assumption here would typically be that to control this behavior, there must be a setting in the preferences. But if I go up to the Photos preferences here, I find that there are no such settings to control that, to control whether or not the Photos app automatically starts up whenever I add or attach a memory card to my computer. So that is a dead end there. Well, in reality, what you have to do is you have to go to a completely different program to change that setting. And this is really what is the most vexing part of this process. And by the way, this was the same problem that happened on iPhoto in the past. So if you are using an older Mac that still has iPhoto on it, you might see iPhoto opening up instead of the Photos app, but the fix is going to be the same. What you have to do is you have to go out to your Applications folder and find a program called Image Capture. And what Image Capture is, it is a utility program that is standard on Macintoshes, which just allows you to import your pictures. And it governs the behavior of other programs when you insert a memory card. So let me double click on Image Capture. And up at the top left of the Image Capture dialog here, it shows me my device, and that is an EOS digital card that's connected. And with that highlighted, if I come down to the bottom here, there is a little triangle button in the lower left. And the vexing thing about this is that there's no indication what that button is for. Even if you mouse over it, you don't get any helpful tooltip that tells you what it might be. So it's really easy to miss that button and the functionality that it contains. If I click on that, I see that it contains a menu that controls what happens when this particular device or a memory card from this device is connected. In this case, you can see it's set to open up the Photos program. And that is going to be the default setting. So if you've never ever changed that on your Mac, that is why Photos is still opening. Now notice there are other programs I can specify here, or I can also just choose Other and go and navigate to another program, such as Lightroom, for instance. If I wanted Lightroom to start up, even if it was not already running, whenever I inserted a memory card, I could have Lightroom start up just by specifying that here. In this case, I'm just going to choose No Application because I don't want any application to open up when I insert a memory card. Typically, I already have Lightroom running when I want to import pictures. So that is all you have to do. Now, one other thing about this is keep in mind that you might have to do this multiple times for different devices, so different types of cameras. Right now, it is recognizing that my EOS digital camera, don't open up any application, but if I have a different camera, it might not recognize that. So you might have to change this different times depending on the different camera devices that you're using, but that is how you go about changing that setting. Okay, onward to the next Photo SOS topic. This also has to do with importing images and also some of the confusion that can sometimes arise during that process. And this one actually is ripped from today's headlines, or at least my own personal headlines, because I was helping out a client of mine who was traveling in Africa, and she actually called me from Africa and managed to reach me, and I was able to help her out. So here's what was happening. She was traveling, and she had her primary Lightroom catalog and her images on one external hard drive. And of course, that was being backed up to another external hard drive, just so she had a backup of that. And then she was also backing up her Lightroom catalog to the internal drive on her laptop. Well, what happened is she downloaded images from the most recent day, and somehow or other, we're still not sure exactly how this happened, but she started using her backup catalog on the internal drive of her laptop instead of the main catalog, which was out here on the external drive. And she remembered downloading the pictures. She saw them in Lightroom, and she was starting to sort through them. And then later on, when she went back to work from them, she opened up that other catalog, and they were not there. Now, she could see that they were, in fact, on the hard drive. She could go out into the Mac Finder and locate the images on the hard drive and see that they were there, but they weren't in the catalog. So let's first dive in and talk about how to determine what catalog you're working in, because if you do have a backup catalog, and you inadvertently open that backup catalog, you may not right away realize that you're in the backup catalog because, of course, it's going to look nearly identical to your primary catalog. The only difference might be that the most recent images are not there. So let's dive in and check that out. So the first thing that you can do to check out what catalog you're on is that if you are on a Mac, you can come up to the top title bar of the Lightroom interface here. So just above, the main interface where you see the grid view or whatever. And you'll notice that the name of the catalog is up here in the title bar. If you hold down the Command key on Mac and click there, or if you just right-click there, you'll see a little menu open. It'll show you the location of that. So I can see that this is the correct catalog I want to be working in, and this is the hard drive where it's in, etc. So that's one way. The other way is to come to the Lightroom menu, or this would be the edit menu on a PC, and go down to Catalog Settings. And under Catalog Settings, in the General tab, you can see the name and location of your catalog. So that way you can tell what catalog you are working in. And this is how we determined that my client was working in the wrong catalog, the backup catalog. Now, in terms of bringing in the photos she could see on the hard drive were already in the correct folder. So right now I have this kind of a Potemkin folder set up just for demoing that says Mondo Rad Vacation Photos. And she knew that on her hard drive, those photos were there, but she couldn't figure out why they weren't in the Lightroom catalog. So if that is the case, all you need to do to bring those photos back in is to right-click on the folder here and just choose Synchronize Folder. And if there are any new photos in there, they will show up. So you can see here that it says there are 19 new photos that it's seen in this folder. And I can synchronize the folder, which is essentially just telling Lightroom, go out, inventory the contents of this folder, see if there's anything new in there that's not currently in the catalog, and bring it in. Now, you can choose to show the import dialog before you import them in if you wanted to add keywords or whatever. I'm just going to uncheck that there. And I'll choose Synchronize to bring those pictures in. And there they are. Now, in terms of my friend traveling in Africa, the good thing about her situation was she hadn't really done anything to these pictures. She hadn't added any keywords beyond the ones that she would have added upon importing them. She hadn't really done any major development work or anything like that. So she didn't have to worry about that. But that is a way to, one, make sure you know what catalog you're working in and making sure that it is the right catalog. And also, if you know you've imported pictures and you can in fact see them in the right folder out on the hard drive, that is a way to bring those pictures back in. So you can see that right here, here's this new folder that I just brought in here by synchronizing the folder. Now, one other very important setting that kind of applies to this sort of a situation, to ensure that you are not inadvertently opening the wrong catalog, come up to the Lightroom menu on a Mac or the Edit menu on Windows and go to Preferences. And in the General section of the Preferences, this is where you can determine what the default catalog is. Now, if you never change this, it's going to be set to, when starting up, use this catalog, and it'll say Load Most Recent. So that is where people sometimes get into trouble, where they find another Lightroom catalog and open it up, but then the next time they click on the Lightroom icon, either on the desktop or in the dock or the taskbar or whatever, it is going to open up the most recent catalog that they were working in rather than the one that they really want to be working in. So what I recommend doing is opening this menu up and just choosing the specific catalog that you do in fact want to work with. So I'm just going to choose my primary catalog here. And now I know that when I click on the Lightroom icon down in my program dock, it is going to always want to open up this particular catalog, and I know that I will be working in the right catalog there. So that is another very, very useful tip to pass along, and certainly something that every Lightroom user should be familiar with. Okay, next I want to tell you about something that I like to do with my catalog, and I think is a pretty useful thing for any Lightroom user to create and maintain, and that is a stunt catalog. So what is a stunt catalog, you might ask? Well, just like in movies and TV, when there's a dangerous stunt, they don't have the main star or the main actor or actress do it. They bring in a stunt person to do it. Somebody who's trained to do those dangerous things. And, God forbid if anything terrible happens, it's the stunt person taking the blows, not the big money star. So essentially, the same concept applies to your Lightroom catalog. Because, once you invest a lot of time in your Lightroom catalog and you've got tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of images, there are certain operations where you may be a little bit leery about doing something if you're not totally sure of the outcome, how it might affect your catalog, and you don't want to screw things up. So what I do is I create a stunt catalog for that very purpose, to try things out on. And my stunt catalog contains a fair amount of images, usually several hundred to 1,000 or 1,500, something like that. I want a good kind of representative selection of images. So I've got a wide variety of file formats that I tend to have in my catalog. PSD files and lots of RAW files, JPEGs from my camera phone, things like that. I've got a wide variety of folder structures represented in my stunt catalog. Again, all of these are based upon my real catalog. And I also have a variety of different collections in my stunt catalog. That way I can test things out, and if I just want to be 100% sure as to what the result will be if I try something that is going to affect my entire catalog, or a good portion of my catalog, I can do it on my stunt catalog and not worry about screwing up my main catalog. So let's dive in, and I'll show you a quick way that you can set up your own stunt catalog for this very purpose. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to my collections panel, and I'm going to choose to create a new collection set, and I'll just call this LR Stunt Catalog. And let me actually just copy that while I have it highlighted. And I'll create that. And then I'm going to right-click on this and choose to create a collection inside of it. And I can see here in the Create Collection dialog that I am targeting this to be inside the collection set that I just created. And I'm going to just call the actual collection essentially the same thing. And I'll create that. And actually, before I create that, let me point out this little option here, Set as Target Collection. When I am in the act of creating a stunt catalog, that is definitely something that I would target and enable to make it easy to add images. But let me also show you how to do that if you forget to set that. So I'm going to leave that unchecked right now. And here is my stunt catalog. To set it as the target collection, if you neglected to do so there in the Create Catalog dialog, just right-click on it and choose Set as Target Collection. Now, you'll see a little plus symbol appear next to the name of that catalog, and that means that you can use a keyboard shortcut to add photographs to your stunt catalog. To add photographs to this collection. So let me just point out here that this is currently not a catalog yet. It is just a collection, but I will turn it into a catalog towards the end of this process. Right now, I just want to give you kind of a quick suggestion as to how you can get a representative selection of images into your catalog. So I'm going to come back up here to these photos that I just imported. I'm just going to select them all in the grid mode. I'll tap B on the keyboard, and you can see that little banner there that showed up that said that I had just added these to my stunt catalog. Let me come up here to another folder of images, and I'll just do select all and then B. Now, the great thing about adding images to your catalog this way is that it will remember. Now, the great thing about adding images to a collection this way is that when you finally export this collection as a catalog, which is kind of where we're headed, it will remember the folder structure of where all these images came from. So that is a pretty cool thing. So I'm just going to randomly select lots of images here, to put in this catalog. And I'm not going to worry about getting a whole representative selection here, but I'm going to come up and maybe go into another year and select some from another year here. So I've got a representative selection. Again, I'm just selecting images and choosing B, tapping the letter B on the keyboard and adding those in. So I'm going to continue doing this, and then I'll catch up with you when I'm done, and we'll see how to take this collection and actually create the stunt catalog. Okay, I'm done adding images to my collection here, and if we come over to the collections panel, we can see that I've got just under 1,000 images in that stunt catalog. So that is a good, representative number. You could have less, of course. You could have more. It really just depends on what you want to do. And when you're looking at pictures in a collection, as we are here, you don't see any separation of, what folder it's in, what year it's in, etc. But once we create a catalog from this collection, we will see that replicated in the new catalog. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, with that stunt catalog collection highlighted here, I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to choose to export this collection as a catalog. And I already have a folder that I've created for this here called the Ye Olde Stunt Catalog, and I have this targeted to an external drive. And typically I do put this on a smaller external drive, one that I can carry with me. That way, if I need to demo some stuff when I'm working with people doing on-site training or something like that, I have that stunt catalog with me, and it's just easy to be able to try out something before I run it on my primary catalog. So some of the settings to pay attention down here. We can see that we've got a catalog with 978 photos and 6 virtual copies. I definitely do want to export the negative files here. What that means is that Lightroom is going to actually make a copy of the raw file or the JPEG or the PSD, whatever. It's going to make a copy of the file and export that. And that's important because I want to have my stunt catalog be a total standalone entity with actual image files in it so that I can do stuff on it, and I really don't care if anything bad happens because it's just a copy of the file. It's not an actual, original copy of my file for my main catalog. So I do want to have export negative files selected there. In this case, I do not need to build or include smart previews. If I needed to do any testing with smart previews, I probably would build those on a case-by-case basis in the stunt catalog once I was working with that sort of an issue. But I am going to include any available previews, and these are just the available previews that Lightroom has already created here. And I'm going to give this a name. I'll call this Stunt Catalog, and I'll just give it a date of February 2016. And I will choose to export the catalog. Now, depending on how many images you have chosen to export, this process could take a few minutes. So just be aware of the progress bar in the upper left of the Lightroom interface, because even after that initial little message dialog disappears, it is still exporting the catalog. So I will catch up with you in a few minutes when this process is done, and we will take a look at this newly minted stunt catalog. Okay, so the process is now done. Let's take a look at exactly what got exported when we chose to take that collection of images and export it as a new catalog. So you can see we have the catalog file here and the previews file. Now these other two files here, the lrcat-journal and lrcat.lock files, those are files that only appear when a catalog is open. And this catalog actually is open in Lightroom. We'll be going over to it in a second. But these are just temporary files that appear when a catalog is open. Once I close this catalog, these two files will disappear. In the image archive folder, this is actually just a copy of the folder structure in my main catalog. So you can see I have the various years where I had added images to the collection, and then inside there are some subfolders and additional subfolders. So the cool thing about when you have images from many different time periods in a collection, and then you export that as a catalog, it recreates the folder structure based on all of the images that were in the collection. So it is recreating all of these nested folder structures for each year. So that's pretty cool. And that is an important element of having a stunt catalog. You want to have the folder structure of that stunt catalog be somewhat representative of the actual folder structure in your main catalog. So let's pop over to Lightroom and see what this looks like. Another thing that happens when you take a collection of images and export them as a catalog is that Lightroom will replicate any other collections that those images happen to be a part of. So for instance, if I come here to my Iceland collection set, you can see that I have several collections, and there are images that were in that stunt catalog collection that now appear in the same collections that they appeared in my primary image catalog. So the cool thing about having this stunt catalog and all of the images associated with it as a totally separate standalone file is now I can do whatever I want to test out different operations that might affect large groups of images, and I do not need to worry about adversely affecting my primary catalog. I can test it out, make sure that the process is going to work as I expect it to, and then when I know that, I can go ahead and apply whatever process I'm doing to my primary catalog, secure in the knowledge that I'm not going to screw anything up. So that is the primary benefit of having a stunt catalog, and it's definitely something that I recommend that all Lightroom users have, because sometimes you just want to be able to test something out and see how it's going to affect large groups of images without actually running it on the real images first. Well, I hope that you found those few Photo SOS tidbits to be useful and can apply some of them in your own imaging workflow. So in terms of the book giveaway, just a reminder, if you want to have your name entered to win that book, The Art, Science, and Craft of Great Landscape Photography by Glenn Randall, head over to the episode page for last week's episode. That's the 052 Boundary Warp for Panoramas episode. And leave a comment there with some suggestions and ideas of things that you'd like to see covered on future episodes of The Fix. And that will put your name in contention for that book giveaway. And I'm going to be closing that on February 18th. So I'll do the drawing on February 19th and announce it on the next episode of The Fix after that. So good luck, and definitely do put your name in there. And more importantly, share with us some ideas of what you'd like to see covered on future episodes. So you can always subscribe to the audio version of The Fix on iTunes, or you can find the video version as well as a downloadable audio version at the website, thisweekinphoto.com/thefix. I'm Sean Duggan. Thanks very much for stopping by and watching. We'll catch you next time on The Fix.